Good people, so there are things that actually bordered on abomination to me when I first came to Nigeria, especially after having a baby here. Man, I wasn't ready for some of the things that happened. So you guys, you tell me what you think. So during the wedding, we were told to go multiply and fill the earth and have fun while doing it. Anyway, we did exactly that, and 9 months later it was time to have the baby. So I'll be honest and say that the whole process, the pregnancy journey, was amazing. We had great nurses, we had great doctors. I mean, I'll never forget our doctors. Like, I mean, they were amazing. So I wasn't really scared about giving birth in Nigeria as much as everybody else is trying to go and give birth outside the country. I mean, many Nigerians actually just go and give birth, I mean, in the US, in the UK, anywhere else other than Nigeria. But we actually really had great doctors. So anyway, so they advised us to have an induction because they felt that I didn't have to wait until the 40 weeks for health reasons. Anyway, the time comes, I'm induced, I have my experience, which is not so bad, by the way, and have the baby. Now, the shocker happens during the third delivery. If you know anything about birth, okay, the first stage of delivery is actually I think the labor pains. The second stage is actually when the baby comes, and the third stage is when you actually now expel out the placenta. I know this is too much information, but we are all grown here, and even if you're male, you should know these things. If you're gonna have a baby and you're gonna be a husband, it's very important to know these things. So anyway, all through, my husband is in the delivery room with me. Not even just that, even during the labor process, all through he was there. During the labor pains, he was there with me, encouraging me. So we had a room, so he had his own bed in our room and space to just rest, so we were okay. Anyway, after now giving birth, you know, normally they just take the baby away, and then maybe they're cleaning him up, checking the vitals and that kind of thing. So he went to be with the baby and check on the baby just to make sure they're okay as they finished up with me. Anyway, long story short, so it's just me and the doctors there and the nurse. There was our doctor and the midwife and the nurses, yeah. So they finish up with me, and they are about to now, you know, just help me clean up and take me back to our room now from the delivery room. And then they bring something in a paper bag, right? They call it nylon here, but paper bag. So they bring something and they're like, okay, ma, where do we keep this? I'm like, what's that? Because I'm not expecting anything. This is not our room, so I don't have any personal effects per se in the delivery room. And then they bring this back, and then I'm like, okay. So I see it's wobbly and it's red, you know, something like a living thing. So I'm like, what are these people doing? So I'm like, I ask, what's that? They're like, Abi, is your placenta? I'm like, what the, you know? I almost cursed. Like, I was so shocked. Like, what do you mean? Like the placenta? Because me, I've never heard of such a thing. Like, why are you giving me the placenta? What do you want me to do with it? I mean, it's not like I belong to the Church of Scientology. Okay, sorry if you belong to that church. Nothing wrong with being of whatever, you know, going to whatever church or having any your spiritual beliefs. But anyway, they gave me the placenta. I'm like, what am I supposed to do with it? Like, I'm not gonna eat it. I know that even in the US, sometimes people take it and eat it. Some people make vials of blood. Some give it away for research. I think stem cell. You know, some giving it. I mean, there are all sorts of reasons why people take back their placenta. But all through, nobody had talked to me about the placenta and what happens after that. As per what I've known all through my life, I mean, I have many friends who've had babies. I have sister-in-laws, 6 of them, so, and all of them had babies. I never ever heard of anyone being given the placenta. I don't know to take where. So I was like, what do I do with this? So turns out, in a lot of cultures or places in Nigeria, people are given the placenta, especially amongst the southwest people of Nigeria. These are mainly the Yoruba people, and as you know, I'm a Yoruba wife. So they give me, and they look shocked, like, don't you know this? Nobody told you about this. Now the thing with my husband, and this is a fight we constantly keep having, is that he doesn't tell me things that he thinks would really shock me. you know. So he lets me just, he says he gives me small, you know, he manages me. And I don't like that, you know. I like to be prepared. But he usually says that he enjoys seeing my reactions as long as he knows. Of course, if it's something very serious or very crazy, he will tell me. But some of these things, he just lets me find out for myself, which I don't mind, because, I mean, it's good so that I don't have any biases. Anyway, so now they give me the placenta. I'm like, so I think I was so shocked. The nurse just put it on the side and then waited for my husband to come. Then I'm like, babe, Busi, they're giving me this thing, the placenta. Like, okay, what is it? Because he hadn't said it's a placenta. It's like, okay. Sorry. I'll handle it. So the nurses are like, Abi, you didn't tell your Kenyan wife that what we do with the placenta here. He said, no, it's okay, I'm gonna tell her. So they're like, no, you should have prepared her and all that, but they laugh it off. I think they just understand. So anyway, it turns out that there are so many beliefs around the placenta in Nigeria generally. Okay, not amongst all of them. My Igbo friend tells me that it's optional. They ask you that, do you want it treated as medical waste or do you want to take it home, right? These are Igbos. But let me focus on the Yoruba because that's what I know very, very well. So it turns out that the placenta and the umbilical cord have to be taken by the father of the child and buried by the father of the child, right? Nobody else. So anyway, the father of the child takes it and goes to bury it. I think he says a prayer or something and then buries it deep, right? So you can't bury it surface level where there's chances of maybe cats, dogs, or whatever animals to eat it or mess with it. And you just don't bury it just about anywhere. I don't have the details of exactly where, but they used to say that you bury it far away, but at a good place, right? So I asked my husband, like, okay, what's this about? So, I mean, he's a young man, so he may not know the full details of it, but he tells me that according to their tradition, you know, the placenta is very crucial in the development of the child, of the baby in the womb. And it carries very vital information and very vital, it basically is the one that keeps the child alive because of the feeding and exchange of nutrients, blood flow, and all that. So they know that it's a very big part of the baby. So they know that if anyone is able to access the placenta, then apparently they can harm the baby, right? So I know many people may think that this is superstition, but well, that's just the way it is. So you need to bury it in a place where it's away from harm. Make sure there are no village witches around or anybody that may want to harm the baby, because they feel that somebody can manipulate the destiny of the child using the placenta, right? So the placenta is basically the center of life. So that's why they have to do that. So for me, it was really, really shocking because first and foremost, it's not something you want to see, right? It's not a placenta. I mean, if you're a woman and you've given birth, I mean, you can, I mean, it's the way it is. And for whatever reason, if you haven't, think about liver. You know how liver is very, it has the same look and feel like the liver. So it's not something that for me was normal. But I did a bit of research and I found out that so many communities and countries across Africa actually do the same thing, like bury the placenta. I think among the Ugandans, I saw somewhere in a particular research that even Luos apparently, back in the day, I don't know if they still do it now, they actually would bury the placenta. If it's a male child, they bury on this right side of the heart, and if it's a female child, on the left side of the heart. So I don't want to get into the details because I'm not an expert on that, but apparently it's not a very strange thing. Now, the other shocking thing was about you don't give, if somebody asks you, of course, the first thing when you now announce, oh, the baby came last night, you know how it is, oh, we had a baby boy, he's, let's say, 7 kilos and very tall. You know how we do birth announcements on WhatsApp or messages to our friends, how we broadcast it. So the first thing that people will ask, what's the name of the baby? Now, the thing with the Yoruba people, a child does not have a name, or rather is not named until the 8th day after birth. Is it 7 days? So on the 8th day, after 7 days, so on the 8th day, you name the baby. So it's very strange because by the time, of course, it doesn't mean you don't have a name, because usually you'll know what you want to name your child, if it's a male child or a female child. But usually in Nigeria, names are genderless, you know, they're unisex, you know. So we have Abiola, who is a woman, we have Abiola who is male. We have, I mean, they share names because names are largely very heavy on meanings, right? And I'll talk about that in another video. So the baby actually is nameless for the first week. So anytime, say, people from Kenya would ask, what's the name of the baby? And I would say, okay, I'll tell you in a week. They're like, no, just tell us. What's the big deal? We are family. I'm like, no, according to the culture, we'll tell you about on the 8th day. So anyway, for 7 days, baby's baby, right? No name. So, and that's a really interesting ceremony that happens on the 8th day. It's really big or small depending, and there are particular times it means that you hold the baby naming ceremony. I think either very early in the morning or I think at 4 p.m. I don't know if there's any particular reason for those kind of timings, but usually it's a very beautiful ceremony because you have prayers, you have food, you have parties, and it's really, really cool. And then a Nigerian baby can have as many as 20 names, depending. And different people name the baby. So the father, the mother, the grandma, the siblings, even the pastor, depending. So their names are actually inspired and actually speak to the destiny of the child. So we just don't name Brian, Kevin, Jane, James, John. No, 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 no. All Nigerian names are very meaningful and they are very, very beautiful. The other thing that really really shocked me is that, so, you know, we have sons only. All our babies are boys. We have 3 boys. Now, circumcision happens shortly after. So after the naming, you start thinking about circumcision. So the sooner the better, right? So what shocked me the most is that the mother is actually very involved in taking care of the child during circumcision and after. Now, in Kenya, and especially let me speak about Kikuyus, circumcision is a rite of passage, and it actually happens as a bridge between when you enter teenagehood, mostly when they are 13 or 14, thereabouts. So usually happens when after primary school, as the children go into high school, that's when they get circumcised, and it's a big, you know, it's a big celebration. It's a rite of passage. You've now become a man. So I'm like, oh, this baby is so tiny, you know, barely, I mean, 1 week, 2 weeks old, and then you have to take them through the pain of circumcision. So apparently, it's even better to do it then because the child heals faster because they are younger. But now the most shocking thing is that I, as the mother, was supposed to take care of the baby, you know. In Kenya, I mean, in Kikuyu culture, the mother does not even go near the heart of the baby, of their son after circumcision. I think even the food is cooked by some other people and not the mother. I think the mother sees the son later on, after the son has a particular period of time. That's when the mother is able to see the son. But anyway, things have changed nowadays, and people actually even just go to hospital for circumcision. It's not like back in the day that, you know, people would go to the forest or go to secluded places. But some people still opt to do the traditional way. But I know a lot of people are now doing the modern way of just going to the hospital and then maybe going home or going somewhere else. But usually the responsibility of taking care of the boy after circumcision is usually given to the youngest uncle of the family, right? Or an uncle of the family from the maternal side. So that was really, really shocking for me, and I actually thought that was an abomination. Anyway, those are some of the shocks. So the placenta was buried, I won't say where, and it can never be done by the mom. I asked my husband later, please show me where you did it, and he showed me, and that's the way it is. So those are some of the shocks. I've since gotten over it, but doesn't mean that I'm used to it. So see you in the next one. Bye.